Hello, friends. I'm Kush Khandelwal, and this is Ageless Athlete. A few years ago, I started asking questions that would not leave me alone. Why do some people keep pushing mentally, physically, spiritually long after others burn out or break down? What does it really mean to age well when you still crave movement, meaning, and mastery? This show is my search for answers. Each week, I talk to elite athletes, everyday adventurers, and pioneering researchers who are stretching the limits of what's possible across age, injury, illness, and self doubt. You will hear hard won lessons, untold stories, and science backed strategies for building a body and mindset that lasts. For those of us joining for the first time, welcome to the show. For the rest, thank you for joining us again. Time is our most valuable asset, and I deeply appreciate you giving me your time today.
Imagine standing on the summit of El Capitan in Yosemite. You have just finished one of the hardest free climbs in the world, the Dawn Wall. You are sleep deprived, your fingers are raw, and snow is starting to fall. Now imagine you did not fly there. You came from Europe by sailing across the Atlantic over a multi year project. You also traveled by land across continents. You trained for the biggest climbing goal of your life without stepping on a plane because you care for the environment, because you wanted your choices to align with your values. That's Seb Berthe, a Belgian climber who's built his life around intentionality. He climbs at the highest level, but what sets him apart? He does it on his own terms, with low impact travel, quiet integrity, and a fierce commitment to living in a way that reflects the world he hopes to help protect. And yes, Seb is younger than most guests on this show, but his discipline, his decisions, and his example speak directly to the questions we all wrestle with. What does it mean to live in alignment? And are we really walking the talk when we say we care about the planet? I'll be honest, this conversation made me reflect. Yes, I talk about sustainability, I talk about living minimally, but I still live in a van that runs on diesel and I drive it everywhere. Sep made a different call. He chose the harder way. And that choice should challenge all of us. But this isn't just a story about values or about doing a spectacularly hard big wall climb. It is also a story about partnership. Because Seb did not climb the Dawn Wall alone. His partner, Soline, was with him every day up on the wall, living on that wall for 2 weeks, 14 days, braving cold, snow, and sleepless nights, supporting Seb through the entire way. She warmed his frozen toes between attempts. She hauled gear, stayed present through every setback, and in doing so, reminded us that big goals are never truly solo. In this episode, we talk about slowness in a fast world, grit in the face of uncertainty, and how the people we surround ourselves with can either hold us back or carry us through. This one will leave you thinking about how you live, how you love, and what you are really committed to. I always like to start with this question, which is where are you right now? And what did you have for breakfast today?
Well, right now I'm in South France, southwest of France, and I had what did I have? Oats with fruits and water because we had no more soya milk. So yeah, so yeah, that was a pretty modest, pretty humble breakfast this morning.
Go ahead.
I had a peach. I had a peach and like some quick oats, so that was fine. That was fine.
You know, it's funny. I had a very similar breakfast. I also had oats and fruit, and then I had some leftover oat milk that I found in my fridge because I had a friend visit me, and that's how she likes her coffee. I drink my coffee without anything, but she likes. So I was out of yogurt, so I often add yogurt to my oatmeal. But then I found milk. It's funny. You are in this land of high cuisine. You're in France, and
That's true.
you had to add water to your oatmeal. I mean, if that doesn't like speak to adventure and like the pure dirtbag lifestyle.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, to be honest, I just arrived in France. I just come from Yosemite right now. It's weird to say so because it's been a month and a half that I left the valley, and we crossed the Atlantic by with a sailboat. So it took us like almost 2 months to leave like from the valley to here in France, where my girlfriend is just living here, and I'm still I'm still not home. Like I still have one day of traveling by train back to Belgium. So yeah, I'm still in a dirtbag mode right now. So that's
Yeah.
why maybe like we just arrived at her place and like the fridge was empty and yeah, that's why. That's probably why.
Well, good thing you are still strong. You still have your, I guess your I don't know, your strength to adapt to different food and to do without certain foods because I think I think a lot of us who live in the West, you know, we are so used to our creature comforts. It's very easy to get soft
Of
and be
course.
very demanding with like have all of those things around us. And if we don't have those things, then we uh and we suffer. So maybe this is a good segue into this question. So, you know, I've been really looking forward to this conversation because, you know, it's not just about your climbing, it's about like how you live and the alignment you have between your values and your actions. Before we get into your big project and you just got back from Yosemite, you seem to like treat adventure and even chaos, I don't know, in this joyful spirit from what I can see. So, what does adventure mean to you right now, Seb?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true that I try to see the good side of like a hard situation. Is like it can be like being on a wall, being cold, or being in the middle of the Atlantic on a sailboat, like throwing out because it's moving too much. On the other hand, I also have bad moments. Like maybe I don't share them as much as the good ones. That's why as well. What's adventure for me? I think I would say it's something unknown, and you step into this unknown. Yeah.
Back from Yosemite, you did the ascent in back in January, and I didn't realize that you have been away, and it took you this long to
Yeah.
to
So
get back.
like I mean, yeah. The whole idea of the trip was to do like this huge adventure, trying to. So I already did a trip like that 3 years ago, where we tried to go to Yosemite from Europe without taking any plane. So with sailing, and it took us already 10 months of trip last time. So and my goal was still to climb the downwall at the time, and and I failed last time. So the idea this year was to try again and like in the same style or at least a similar style. So yeah, I spent 6 months in the US and 6 months in the Valley. Yeah, I wanted. I think, or at least the idea of this trip was also like to live in a slow way, like to really experience a place as we experienced Yosemite for such a long time, and also experienced a different kind of traveling, which is slow, and you need to accept it. And that's something I would say in our society doesn't happen so much. I mean, yeah, you never experience something like sitting like coming from Yosemite going back to Europe. It's something weird. You like, I'm going back home, but it's gonna be in like 8 weeks or something, you know. And we, for example, we had this situation with the sailboat where we broke a part of the boats, like just starting from Florida, and we had to stop, just like we were about to start from like on the Atlantic, and we broke that, I don't know the word in English, the key or something, and we spent another week trying to fix it, you know. And like that's something we don't usually do in our way of life, like just take a whole week, like try to fix something. and the idea was to try not to be too much worried about it, or be okay about the thing of taking so much time to do something. and that's not easy, huh? Like you said it looks maybe positive or something, but when you are like in this really small island where you can't do anything, like just waiting for a week, like to get back, like just to start moving, and then you move like about 10k like per hour or something, like 10 miles per hour, like, or even less. Like, yeah, that's something and that was the idea of the whole trip. Try to get comfortable with this slow way of living, and just, yeah, take the time and not being in a rush all the time, which, and like I've been here in France for the last 2 3 days, and I'm already back into this mode where like I need to rush, I need to check my emails, and I would recommend everyone like just to live this slow period in their life. Yeah, I mean,
Se- Seb, that
it's
was,
yeah.
yeah, that was so deep. You were smiling the whole time. But a few months ago, I was in Red Rocks and I accidentally broke the circuit breaker that charges my alternator from the solar panels. So I was running out of power, and
Oh yeah.
I'm around the city. I have all the conveniences, and it took me just a day to fix it, but I was so stressed out, right? I mean, I
Oh yeah,
think
of
that I'm
course.
doing this slow life by living in a van, and
Of course, yeah.
but like I'm still wired to have to need to be able to have everything done right away. I don't want to jump too far ahead here, but I just had this thought. Seb, you spent multiple days on on El Cap, on the Dawn Wall. I think your first trip you spent over 20 days consecutively. When you sent, I think you were there for a couple of weeks, right, on the wall,
Yeah.
and we will get
Yeah,
into
yeah.
that a bit more later. So you also then spent this week in this one thing of fixing this this thing to allow you to sail your boat, and then you spent multiple months on the boat itself. So do you think being in a boat and traveling slow, do you think that helped prepare you for the days on the wall? Or do you
Mhm.
think it was the other way around? Do you think having this big project, being stuck on the side of the wall, do you think that helped you gain the patience to be able to travel slow? I've been thinking a lot about energy, not just in training, but in recovery, in focus, in how we age. So when I came across NutriSense, it hit home. It's a program that pairs a 24 by 7 glucose biosensor with a dedicated dietitian to help you understand how your body responds to food, stress, sleep, and movement, and then act on the data. I chose it because I wanted something real, not another hack or one size fits all plan, just honest insight into what's actually going on inside me and how to build habits that last. NutriSense has helped over 150,000 people take that step. And if you want to try it, you can get 33% off your first month with code ageless15 at nutrisense.io. Again, that's nutrisense.io, code ageless15. You can also find this information on the show notes for this episode.
Of so I would say that yeah, I think this whole adventure, like these two trips of 10 months both, and like this so we crossed the Atlantic 4 times in total, which was I think I counted the days we spent on the ocean in total, but I believe it's about 8 months in total living on a boat. I'm sure it taught me patience. I wasn't someone like especially patient before, not at all. My whole life, I've always wanted to do more and like do something else, and I think people would say that I'm more like a super like active person or someone like who does a lot. Yeah, for sure. Like the sailing part taught me to be patient. That's for sure. And then yeah, I think it also helps to value the thing when you're there. Like when you get to Yosemite and you spend so much time getting there, like there is so much value in just being there. That's also a nice part, I would say. I'm not saying that's like I'm sure if I take a plane tomorrow and I arrive in the valley with good conditions, which is not the case right now, it's too warm for sure. I'm sure I would enjoy it a lot. But yeah, yeah, like you see, think maybe in m- more beautiful way. Like for example, we just arrived three days ago. Today we just did this scramble running day in the mountains here in the Pyrenees, and that was amazing. Like just being there, like it's so green, it's so like just running in the mountains. I, I'm certainly not in a good shape at all, but it's really nice as well. So yeah.
Yes, I can only imagine the sense of appreciation you have for big open spaces that you can move
For
your
sure.
body, move your spirit. The first time you got on that boat, Seb, or I'm not sure if this is the first time you embarked on this type of adventure, but I'm really fascinated by what you said about just appreciating where you are. Because I think as climbers, as outdoor adventurers, we can become so goal oriented.
Of course, yeah.
Any practices you developed to be able to stay in the moment, to be, yeah, to be able to appreciate just where you are at that time?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's always hard, huh? I'm not like it's not something that you have for granted once you've done it once. Like, but of course, like the first time I jumped on this sailboat 3 years ago, it was definitely super hard just to accept to accept that it's gonna take time. So I knew it would take time, but then once you're there, it's totally different. And I had the very same feeling here when we went back. It was a even smaller boat. It was like 38 feet, so pretty small, and it was moving way more than the three other crossing we had. So it was I would say it was even harder this time. And the first 2 weeks, I really struggled to accept, like just or to give up, like just to let what you wanted go, like the goals, the the idea. So it's actually, yeah, when sailing, it's a bit like that. Or at least the experience I had. Like, I'm not a big sailor at all. Like, I just had this experience. And it, so the first weeks, you are like still thinking in a capitalist way, if I may say. Like, you want to read that book. You want to write this thing about your life. And it's also it's still in the to-do list mode, or at least it's what I did. I'm always like, oh, I want to enjoy the boat and being there to do this. And then you realize that it's not possible because you're seasick, because you don't want it, because you don't have the energy. And at some point, after 2 weeks this time, so it took me a while, I finally gave up on all this. And then you can actually accept and slow down and like enjoy the moment. But yeah, it's pretty tough to enjoy the moment, or at least for me. Like, yeah, I'm really goal oriented as a climber usually. So yeah, just being there and accept that you are there. It's something that takes time for sure.
You set out on a very tough goal with your trip. And as climbers, we are often motivated by big projects. And there's so much hard work that goes into those projects. Hard work, uncertainty, doubt, sometimes even risk. But I'm guessing if you ask the typical climber, what would be harder, the progression towards succeeding on a difficult project, or to be stuck on a boat for as long as 8 months in total. And most people would be like, give us the hardest project in the world,
Of
being
course,
stuck on a
yeah.
boat. Seb, I want to talk about the Dawn Wall.
Yep.
Congratulations, a big one, on succeeding on this thing this January. Are you okay if we talk about that for just a tiny bit?
Of course, yeah, of course. I'm happy to talk about it.
Yes, yes. So I want to start at the beginning. So you have spent most of your climbing life likely closer to home around Europe. And you have also made low impact travel such a priority in your life. I am curious why the Dawn Wall? It is far away. It is, yeah, it's got a lot of legacy, but it is also famously hard. So, what pulled you to that route, Seb? Why did you want to do the
Hmm.
Dawn Wall?
Yeah, that's true. It's maybe not the most obvious goal that you could think of as a Belgian climber. But on the other hand, I would say that, so first of all, I think I fell in love with Yosemite the first time I went there, which was in 2016, so a few years ago. I really liked the place, El Capitan, the style of climbing, and I felt quite good at it as well. Like, I would say it suits my style quite well. Um, I've always been quite good in like technical small holds, slabby slash vertical kind of climbing. So yeah, in that way, I feel like Yosemite suit my style pretty well. And then yeah, and then I did like a few climbs in Yosemite where I had to try quite hard, and I was pretty proud about the effort I did. And at some point I was like, I really want to set myself a big goal in Yosemite. And then yeah, somehow I thought about the downwall, and oh, of course it was pretty far, and I didn't expect all that could happen with setting that goal at the time. But yeah, it is when I saw when I remember in 2015 when I saw Tommy and Kevin like topping out, and I was like, oh, it was already a dream at the time, or at least really far dream. but still something that I had in mind. I was like, oh, that would be amazing, just to be up there and try hard on this route. So yeah, step by step, it became a bit more than a dream, or at least it became a goal or a project. And yeah, and then the idea of going there, like, or trying to go without in a different way, like crossing the Atlantic with a sailboat, which at the time I had no idea what was it about. Like I had never sailed before, so somehow it was a really far quest, but also very exciting. Yeah, maybe I'm someone as well who likes to try impossible things, or that seems impossible at first, and then try to. I think it's a really good feeling when you can achieve something that seemed close to impossible before. Um,
Seb, only a few people have climbed the Dawn Wall before you. It's out of reach, really, for most everybody. Yes, it was a huge goal, but even the people who have done it before you, and full kudos to their efforts, they did not spend 8 months traveling in a
yeah, I mean,
sailboat, and also traveling on land. Like you also did traveling in land because you adopted this values driven process. And I'm trying to understand if there is a parallel arc between your style and this mega project in Yosemite. So you did go to Yosemite before starting the project. And
yeah, yeah.
were those trips also, were you flying conventionally to get to Yosemite from Europe
I was
when you
I
first
was
went
flying.
there?
Yeah, I was flying for sure. So my history with Yosemite is like I did a trip, a 2 month trip in 2016, where I did 3 trips before this project where I flew. Um, so one in 2016, one in 17, one in 19, and then somehow like in 2020, I don't know, I tried to like to change the way I was living. I wanted to yeah, I had this like kind of crisis where I lost sense in the climbing somehow, because of all what's happening in the world. I was like, why can I just keep climbing like in a selfish way somehow? Like I'm not saying that, yeah, where like people are dying out there because of many kind of situation, and I was like, I want to take like radical decisions, and I want, and that's where somehow I thought about like not taking any more plane in my life for the climbing. And I'm really not saying that it's what I'm gonna do my whole life. Like maybe like for whatever reason I can change my mind, but I wanted to, yeah, to do something in my own way. And that's where the this idea of like trying a different approach on a really different scale to go to Yosemite arrived. So that's where the idea come from somehow.
I sense that our conversation is going to bounce a little bit between your lifestyle and your climbing. So you arrived at maybe this, um, maybe you were feeling a sense of confusion, anxiety between some of these
Like,
maybe dichotomies that exist even in climbing. You know, we climbers, I think, talk a big game about the environment, about protecting nature, but
mm,
I think we often have a high impact lifestyle that we don't want to acknowledge. You know, we are flying everywhere. Hell, I drive uh, a gas guzzling van all over. We are eating high impact foods,
mhm.
and I suppose I should really ask you in a blunt way, what values guide you today? And Is there like some kind of story with how you arrived at this, what seemed like, a dramatic shift in lifestyle?
Yeah, I no, I totally agree. I feel like, I mean, as human, I think we all have like a lot of contradictions, and it's not always easy to face them. And I would say it's something I really try to do nowadays, like to just like really embrace those contradictions and try to be honest about myself, about, not just indeed like not just saying an environment and like the ecological aspect of life is important, just like act on it as much as I can, and yeah, try to face all that and get informed and go deep into those topics, like and in the social struggle, in the environmental struggle, and try to really connect and implement that in my climbing, or at least as much as I can.
Is there maybe a broader cultural shift that might be happening, especially in Europe, around ethics, around social responsibility? Because, when I think about my life in the US, nobody's stopping flying. Like I cannot
Yeah,
think of too many people who are like doing that kind of radical change in their lives. So is that maybe something around your environment or just something else?
yeah. I think there is a big difference, like talking about the flying thing, uh, between Europe and the US. Somehow, in Europe, I know many friends and people who really try to go less on planes and think really about that. For me personally, I think I had like many different steps in my in the way I'm today. Like from friend, I think it's mostly friends, like talking to people and like being, yeah, having debates with people and trying to. Nowadays, I also like read a lot and listen to a lot of podcasts. So maybe that also helped me to to change or
It's
try
interesting.
to
Like the
improve.
moment you go down that rabbit hole, you start going more into those voices, and the more you go into those voices, the more they start like shaping your thinking. So yes, it becomes like, yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
becomes unending. Like
On the other hand, I don't want to go like more radical and more radical all the time. So I think like sometimes it's not always nice to go like as pure as you can. Like there is a trap there where you also try to think as in a capitalist way again, like trying to be like to reach goal in your activism, and I think that's not something you want to do. Like, because my idea is to go against like those kind of like goal targeted thing, and yeah, try to escape this way of thinking in a way. Yeah, I don't know if you get me. Like my
I think I do. No, I think I do, Seb. I am fascinated, and I would love to hear more. Like, what is that balance for you today in your life?
it's kind of hard to find a balance right now. I'm still in. I would say I'm always in a process where like I implement things. I think like I change others, and I would say that's the balance. Try always to rethink what you thought was right or wrong. And I would say, for example, that I was more radical about the, the flying 3 years ago than I'm right now, even though I think I'm like right now I'm way more into like I really want to do something into the like the social injustice and what's happening in Palestine, for example. I feel like that's the main battle. Even like talking about the environment, you can't talk about the environment when people are getting bombed. Like for me, it makes no sense. It makes no sense to say like let's try to drive less when you see like a genocide happening like not far. like our people are getting killed. And I think that's something, yeah, or that you see that there is like still racism in France, like the whole system is still really racist. So I think that's something I want to fight more in the next month or year, or at least invest myself in those kind of struggles more than, for example, just the flying. Even though I'm still like I still want to act on the environment, and I think all these are linked.
I mean,
I think
yeah, it's
it's a little
complex. It's
complicated.
complex. And you're right. I mean, having the right kind of prioritization is difficult because, yes, we don't want to get carried away by the small changes we make in our own life and forget what the big picture is and what's happening.
No, no, what I meant is like I don't want to blame someone who is not like who is flying, for example, to go climbing when like there is a really bigger picture of like big companies like killing the world or like yeah. I think I really want to. I want to try to see like the more systemic view of all this and yeah.
Here's something I've noticed. Your Instagram said Belgian climber in pink tights. And
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, in your pictures, you have, this, let's say this light, fun style. You also seem just such a positive person, Seb. You seem optimistic and just just excited about possibilities. And behind that, I also see somebody who's committed and disciplined and obviously politically engaged. Do you sometimes think about that contrast? Is so there's humor on the surface, but are there also this heaviness about trying to face these huge issues? Friends, it means a lot that you're here. I pour a ton of heart into the show. The research, the interviews, the editing, it's all me, trying to share stories that matter. If Ageless Athlete has ever made you feel seen, inspired you, or just kept you company on a long drive, or better, over a run or a bike ride, I would be so grateful if you considered supporting it. Even a small amount helps keep it going, helps keep bringing the show to you for free. You can chip in at buymeacoffee.com/agelessathlete. Again, buymeacoffee.com/agelessathlete. You can find the link on the show notes as well. Thank you for listening and for being part of this. Underneath.
Yeah, of course, there are really heavy moments, I would say, more and more, I would say, in my life, or where I'm becoming more and more interested and conscious in those kind of topics. So I think it's indeed quite heavy. But on the other hand, I I think it's also nice to keep in mind, like, to bring joy to those struggles. So I've done, for example, like a few gathering over the past years with some like big gathering, activist gathering, where like there are like thousands of people trying to fight for the same cause. For example, we were like blocking those thing in France, like called mega basin, where some really big industries take water from like the small farmers for big like well we were struggling on we were gathering on this cause, and those people were bringing so much joy in the fight that it felt the right thing to do, like just play music, smile, laugh, and
Oh,
still
wow.
fight, and still struggle on, like, still go for it. I think you can do both. And I would say I was maybe a bit more optimistic before. For example, when I wrote the Belgian in climbing in pink tide, like Belgian climber in pink tide on my Instagram, I would say I was a bit more optimistic at the time than I am now. But I think I still should be as much as I can. Like we should be optimistic. We shouldn't lose hope and try. We should try to bring as much joy as we can in general.
Okay, I'm actually going to ask you a different question. So, at the summit of the Dawn Wall, you dedicated your ascent to the anti-fascist struggle. And I'm going to read a quote from you. I think you said, "Silence is complicity and resistance is a duty." And it's not something we see often in the climbing world.
Mhm.
At this moment where you have achieved maybe this huge milestone, and then you dedicate your climb to this message. So,
Mhm.
what were you hoping for from that message? And do you think it achieved some kind of impact that you were intending?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't think I don't know if like if those kind of message can make the difference. Honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think some people get it, and that can make an influence on their self. Like they can say, "Oh, I, like when I was like a kid and like I was looking at other climbers, like professional climbers, I was always like I was very influenced by what they said in life in general. So I would think that if I write that on a social media and there is like, I don't know, like 20,000 of people seeing it, maybe a few of them like must be influenced somehow, and maybe that can make a really small difference. But I think it's still a drop in the ocean for sure. On the other hand, so that's like maybe there is not much results. On the other hand, I think somehow it felt necessary to me to do something. I believe that when you have a platform, as I have, like even though it's not a big platform, like I still have like something. I still have people reading what I write and listening what I say. I still have people. So I think it's like as I wrote, I think it's a duty when you have a platform like that to express those kind of things, especially nowadays where really there is a real war on the social media. There is something happening there, like a war of ID, and that's why I think people who have a platform nowadays on social media should use it for their IDs. I think that's something you should do. And and when I write like silence is complicity, it's a bit linked to this, where we all see on social media that like people are dying, that we know right now that global warming and climate change is gonna like probably destroy the whole life on Earth. We can all watch like documentaries anywhere talking about that, and yeah, I think we should say something, and that's why I did it. And yeah, even though that makes no difference, I think we should do it somehow, or at least to me, I would feel bad just talking about my climbing and only this, and going further about it. For example, on social media right now, I feel ashamed just talking about climbing. It doesn't feel right to me. Like just making a post about just climbing, or when I see all this around, doesn't feel so much right. Or at least it feels like, what's the word in English? It feels like you're hiding, like, or you you create some diversion. Diversion, is it a word? Like,
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, which means that you're gonna talk more. Like, people are gonna talk more about your climbing and not think about what's really matter. Yeah, that's why. That's why I'm gonna keep going, like keep doing this. I wanna share more of this, and even though I feel, to me, social media feels always a bit awkward. I'm struggling with this a bit. Like, yeah, I I'm struggling to find a balance between like what I want to share in terms of pure climbing and pure joy, and just like the activists, the the activist me, you know.
Yeah. Well, social media is a struggle, I think, for most of us. It's such a weird
Of course,
place. You know,
of
it's
course,
it's a tool that is powerful, but it is also a tool that we don't necessarily love.
of course, yeah, yeah. And we are mostly the tool for the social media.
Yeah.
So that's something
Yeah.
to
No, for
keep in
sure.
mind as well. You know, like,
Yes. 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 Yes.
we don't have so much the power there, or at least, yeah,
I agree. I agree. But maybe
we
there are
don't
smart
control.
ways with we
Of
don't.
course, yeah.
Maybe there's smart ways, with which one can tease out the best of the algorithm, right? Because if you make a big powerful stand and the algorithm sees that the powerful image or the powerful words are catching on, people are liking, engaging, then that is maybe one way to quote unquote manipulate the big powers in some way to be
That
with you. Seb, going back to the Dawn Wall. So three ocean crossings. At, at any point, did you ever regret taking on this project? I mean, in sense of some people who are just flying to do a big project, people are flying to the US or just driving to the nearby crag, 2 hours away, and they take on something big. And here you are sitting in a boat, maybe getting seasick and learning
when
to be comfortable with yourself.
when you're seasick, you always regret. Like, or at least that's what I have. When I'm seasick, like properly seasick, and you like it's so bad that of course, you regret. You're like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, I could be there already, or I could be back home, or I could. No, you regret for sure. Sometimes.
And are you a natural sailor? Did you like grow up sailing? Did this come like easily for you?
Not at all. Not at all. I never sailed before the project in 2020. So mm, like, basically the first sailing experience I had was like when we started sailing from France to go to the US, basically.
Wow. I
Yeah.
mean, that is nuts. Like you are, I guess you're preparing for two very intense goals. You're preparing for this climbing, which but it is still a big goal. At the same time, you're having to teach yourself like these skills.
Yeah.
Like how
Yeah, no,
how
like,
did how did you find a crew and like how did you break this thing down into like manageable pieces to be able to figure out like how to sail, get a boat, and
yeah. So
then
the s- so the first time 3 years ago, we had a boat from a friend. We were 8 people, like doing the whole trip together and trying to figure out everything. One of my friend was a really good sailor, and so he took and his girlfriend as well. So they took the whole sailing responsibility. Where this time, so the second trip, we basically each hiked a boat. You can go on like there are many websites on internet that's like that, where people can say, I have this boat, I'm gonna cross there because blah blah blah, and I'm searching for people, like I'm looking for people, for a crew to help for the night watch or something. And you go on this website and you write your story and hope that they're gonna accept. So that's what we did for the boat crossing this time.
I have seen those kinds of websites as well. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been inspired to join them. Maybe I need a big goal at the other end.
Yeah, yeah.
Another thing that I think people would be curious about is people take preparation for like a big outdoor project quite seriously, right? Like there's this. I'm sure
Mhm.
you also had like a plan. I mean, you were like I think a competition climber. I think at some point in your life, so you are
Mhm.
accustomed to having like a big program. But in the middle of that program, right before you get to the dawn wall, you spend a couple of months in a boat, with all
Yeah.
kinds of uncertainties. How did you manage to not lose all your conditioning before you
Yeah.
got to?
Of course, I was the big unknown before the whole thing. Uh, it was the big challenge we had. We, I mean, we had never heard about anyone crossing the Atlantic and properly training. So like I have a few friends in Belgium, like the very famous Sean Villanueva, Nicolas Faures, who had done some like climbing, sailing expedition before, but they were not training properly, or at least not the way I wanted to train. So yeah, that was a big unknown, and at the end we figured it out, even though it's not as good as the training you can do on land for sure, but we figured out some way to do it properly still. So we basically the idea was we brought so many shits for training on the boats the first time, like spray walls, boards, bands, weights, even a piece of rock for the skin. So that was the first time. This second time, on the first crossing, so from France to America, we still had a lot of things, and I think we did really well. Like we were quite lucky. It was quite a big catamaran, so it wasn't moving so much, and yeah, well, I think we managed pretty well to train quite hard. To be honest, when I arrived in in America and the US, I felt in a really good shape. Like, or at
Wow.
least, yeah, I think somehow this challenge motivates me so much. Like the fact that you are on a boat and you want to be strong or like train for a big goal is like it is motivating. It's maybe more motivating than just being in the home routine, for example, where you would like do what you do usually. There you need to be creative, and you need to put up some work to do it. So that I think that was somehow a positive experience, even though for sure it's a bigger challenge. Yeah, than
Yeah,
than just
no
uniform.
doubt. No doubt. I mean, if the dawn wall gets like the 9A grade, I mean, you put like a, I don't know, 9B effort, maybe harder
Yeah,
to
yeah,
nine
well,
nine C effort. I don't know.
unfortunately, climbing doesn't work like that. You
Yeah,
don't
I
grade
know,
the
I
effort.
know,
You
I
grade
know, I
the
know. What changed between your successive ocean crossing? You likely became a better sailor with each trip. You learned a lot, and then you also became better at the climbing training on the boat.
yeah, of
So
course.
can you be maybe a bit more specific on like how
Yeah,
you
yeah,
train differently and in a better way?
yeah, yeah. Basically, I think the first thing, which is quite important, and that's something I learned over the sailing, the time on the sailboat, is that when you when you don't want to do it, you shouldn't try too hard, because like one aspect of being seasick, or at least feeling the sickness, yeah, it's hard to do whatever. Like just standing up it can be really hard. And again, I think it's to accept that you can't follow a really precise plan and to be just indulgent about yourself. Accept it. On the other hand, having a plan is still a good idea. Otherwise, you fall into this rabbit hole of like just laying on your bed and not moving at all. So like having goals and having a plan is still an idea, but you need to accept that it won't be uh, like you won't be able to follow it perfectly. So that's the first thing. On the other hand, I think um, so. We found out ways to get really strong on fingers and like to like train physically without without doing some proper climbing. So the idea was to use like a lot of like hanging boards, a lot of like isometric exercises, because obviously you can't do so much movements. So we were doing a lot of isometric contractions, and also you like another thing which was quite interesting is to play with the movement of the boat. Like depending
Oh,
on the
wow.
situation, you find an exercise. For example, on the first boat we had 3 years ago, um, depending on so we had this small spray wall inside the boat on a room, like on a bedroom, and depending on how the boat was like tilting. So sometimes it's tilting on the inner side and on the other, like, and sometimes it can be the whole way around. Um, and depending on that, I had different boulders. I had different exercise because sometimes it was really easy and sometimes it was really hard. And that's also something with the boat. You can't really measure. It's quite hard to measure whether you're strong or not because sometimes you feel really strong on the hangboards, and sometimes because it's moving more, you can't do the same thing you did just the day before. And yeah, accepting this as well is accepting that you won't be able to measure how in a good shape you are is something important, I would say. Yeah. And then and then something which was really really nice to me as well, I think, is maybe when I'm in a training routine at home, I'm maybe doing too much. Like I'm training maybe too much, and being on a boat, I could really focus on like pure strength and power, and like do something really intense for a short amount of time, because you obviously you can't do like 5 hour session or something. You like basically we were doing maybe an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, and that's what you can do. Like it's quite hard to do more than that. So you try to go like really efficient and intense on whatever exercise you're doing, and that's maybe what I needed the most. Like gets really strong and like go intense on the strength and power.
Hello, friends. Just a quick break. This is not an ad. If you have been enjoying these conversations, I would love for you to subscribe to my newsletter. It is where I go deeper, sharing stories, reflections, and behind the scenes insights that don't always make it into the podcast. I write about what I'm learning from elite athletes and how to stay ageless in body and mind. If you have ever wanted a thoughtful, inspiring read that ties it all together: training, aging, mindset, and awe. You will love this. You can find the link in the show notes or just head to agelessathlete.co. Again, www.agelessathlete.co, that is, to sign up. And yeah, just a couple of emails a month, and you can unsubscribe anytime. Absolutely no spam ever. Okay, back to the show.
You were facing a training situation very few climbers will ever face. I mean, we one of
Yeah.
the,
It's maybe
compared to
not
many other.
useful for anyone. Won't be useful for anyone. Those kind of topics.
I mean, I always like to think that out of many outdoor sports, climbing has that one element, which is unlike surfing or snowboarding or cycling, like the mountain doesn't move. And you are
It's true.
in a situation where the mountain is
It's
moving. Like,
yeah, yeah. That somehow that's interesting as well. I think for like the joint and the muscle, it can be a really good exercise. Maybe like a moving hangboard would be really interesting for people in the future.
I
Get
mean,
stronger.
yeah. I mean, actually, so you talked about that, and you talked about maybe in some ways like the forced rest, right? Because your
Yeah, yeah,
training sessions could not be as intense, and maybe you were also like mentally distracted, because you were learning like this new activity. You were learning to live in a boat. Do you think they actually helped you prepare for the dawn wall in a funny way because you came with this like unusual approach?
yeah. Of like obviously it's quite hard to say. Like it's quite hard to tell whether I would be more prepared if I would have come by plane. Like it's impossible. We would never know. But I like to believe that going in this way got me more psyched in working hard, even harder, and also like puts me out of my usual routine. And yeah, I like to think that maybe it helped, but maybe that's completely foolish or,
I
compl- or
mean,
stupid.
honestly, isn't it like what you believe? What you believe kind of becomes.
It's yeah, yeah, the thing, yeah, yeah, the reality for sure. Let's say so.
Let's talk about belief. I want to take us into the climb itself. And
Yeah.
so when you were writing about, they have these crux pitches, right? Which are harder than the others. And I think is it pitch 14, which is the crux pitch.
Mhm.
And I think you had multiple attempts. And you also spoke about back pain. You talked about like total fatigue. And you managed to
Yeah.
send it. Can you talk about like what went on that day in your words? How deep did you have to dig?
Mhm. Yeah, true. I like have a nice story with the pitch 14, or at least we can say it's nice since I finally sent it. But um, so yeah, basically the first trip we worked with my friend Sid Banet. We worked for 2 months on the whole downwall route, and then I did give um, like a push attempt of 23 days, and I got stopped by pitch 14. And I think I spent 2 weeks trying to send pitch 14 on that push, which was quite a long time working on a single pitch at 1,000 feet high, or 500,000, like, yeah, pretty high on the wall, like hanging on portage. So yeah, when I came back this year, I my main focus was on pitch 14. I directly went on it, and I think I gave a lot of thinking and energy on this pitch, especially on this kind of climbing.
Quick question. So in your prior attempt, did you send everything but that one pitch that got away, or?
So I sent everything up to that pitch, and then like on the working process, you don't really send the pitch. You just work out the sections, and maybe you. My idea was maybe to send the sections between rests, but no, like you don't really give tries, or at least I don't. I didn't. So I hadn't sent pitch 15, 16, 17 up to the summit, but I had sent up to there. And yeah, so this time like the main focus was on pitch 14, even though you need to practice everything. You need to remember everything, because any any goal, like any attempt you're gonna lose on any pitch because you're not dialed or anything, could cost you the send of the whole route. I'm sure of it. Because, for example, if on your first day somehow you fail on the last crux of pitch three, which is like 513 CD or something. If you fail there and then it's too late to give another go, and maybe you give another go, you open your tip, maybe you can be done for the whole push. It's really, I believe it's like an addition of really small thing that can make you fail or succeed in big wall climbing. That's like really important to take into account, that even the easier pitches needs to be like perfect almost, especially with the downwall. And so yeah, I was focusing a lot on pitch 14 and trying to focus on everything else, which costs you a lot of time and energy, of course. But yeah, and then so when I came back this year, I was climbing with Connor Harrison most of the time, and I think we did. So we worked on the route for a month or something. I think I had 15 sessions on the route itself, 15 days of climbing and over a month, and then I gave like the final push attempt in January, about the 15th of January, and I arrived pretty fast and fresh on pitch 14. So I was pretty confident as well, because during the process with Connor, I had really good feeling at the end. I think I found out what shoes I needed. I found out like the perfect beta. I was really dialed on like the body positioning. Um, and yeah, like the day I sent, he was the second day trying the pitch during that push. So the first day I tried, I failed 3 times on the very last move. I was really close, but I still didn't manage to do it that day. Um, and then on my second day on the pitch, it's quite funny because that day I fell a lot of time on crux 1 and crux 2. So there are 3 cruxes on the pitch, 3 boulder problems separate with like okay rest. And I couldn't get back to the point where I went the day before. I was like struggling so much in the first cruxes, and at some point I was like, oh, this is it. Like, no, I'm like falling on the first hard moves. I won't be able to get back up to the last crux. And I think I gave 9 or 10 tries that day, like the whole day. We woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning. I climbed like as hard as I could, like the whole morning, and then that day they were forecasting some snow late in the afternoon, around 5 p.m. or something. And I remember about 4 in the afternoon, I was like almost accepting failure, almost like, oh, this is it. It's gonna snow, and then I had also already quite a short window before like a big storm coming in. So I was like, maybe not this time. I have to go to maybe try again in March. And then I gave this try where like I wasn't especially feeling really good. I was feeling quite bad, to be honest. But I still made it past crux 1, and then like I fought past crux 2, and I was on this like jug before crux 3 where I'd like failed a few times before, and it actually started snowing. It was kind of a crazy moment, like not heavy snow, but still some proper snowing. And somehow maybe maybe it helped releasing the pressure, or like making something different. And somehow I made it through crux 3 and sent the pitch, despite the snow like falling on us. So that was like such a such an intense and big feeling. Uh, it's it's actually quite hard to remember exactly how I climbed these last treks. You know, it's you're in a mode where you don't think, or yeah, you can't really remember those like really big moments. Yeah, it was intense. And I don't know what really made the difference. I'm sure on the first session, like this push, like on this like the success push, I think I was really stressed by this move, and I wasn't relaxed enough to make it happen.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For this kind of climbing, you really need like a special, like specific state of mind, which which can be quite hard to have. You need to be really calm and really focused at the same time. That's quite yeah.
Do you think that you dug deeper in that moment as you were getting past the cruxes than you had ever before, Seb?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe if it's again, it's quite hard to tell. I think you know, like in climbing, whether like you succeed or fail, it can be such a small detail, especially in this kind of really technical on the feet climbing. Sometimes it's really a matter of like 1 millimeter, how you place your feet, how you trust it. It can be so. Yeah, it's pretty different than like some overhang climbing where you,
Yeah.
like the difference is just on like how strong you are on the fingers. There it's really about like details in the positioning of your body and how you trust it. So and so I don't know if I really dig deeper. What I know is that I was probably on that this try also because it was the last try of the day because I had nothing to lose anymore. So I think it released some pressure, and that's what you probably need for sending on the first go of the day when you know you're capable of sending it and you should send it. Then then you feel so much pressure. That's where it
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
And it's not just about, of course, it's not just, yeah, of course, this is a different climb than a single pitch sport or a boulder problem. But this is also a climb that's taking place in the middle of like the most famous big wall. You spent multiple days on the wall already. You're exhausted in every which way. Not to mention, if you don't succeed, there's, yeah, you might have to come back again. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine the pressure, but at some point you were able to release that pressure, Seb, which I think is just so extraordinary.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
want to actually, talk about this for a second. So initially, when you were preparing for this climb, on this trip, you were working with Connor. Actually, did Connor also come close to sending the climb?
No, Connor didn't give a he didn't give a push this year. So we just did the working process together, and I think so. I think he needed more time to before giving a push, and also he had to go back to school from January on. I hope he's gonna go back on it next fall, and I think so. But I don't want to speak
Yeah,
for.
Jinx said, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Good luck.
sure.
Good luck to you,
Oh,
Connor.
yeah. I'm sure he's motivated, and he's like obviously super strong and a crazy talented climber. And so I'm sure he's gonna do the downwall one day pretty soon. That's what I
Yeah,
can say. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He still needs to try hard though. like,
sure. Of course. Yeah.
yeah.
The other kind of partnership, which I think is so important, but I think gets overlooked in the world of climbing. I mean, I feel like for me, the partnerships are the most important part of a big climbing trip or a climbing project, or just my identity as a climber,
Yeah.
especially now on something like your project. You have somebody with you who's supporting you. And I believe your partners was Celine. Yeah, she wasn't just your belayer, she was this total committed equal with you. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Yes.
she was hauling your gear. She was encouraging you through, I'm guessing, the toughest moments. I believe she was even warming your shoes as you were
Yeah, yeah.
getting buffeted by the storm.
It
What
was
did
it was not the
what did her
shoes,
support?
it was the toes, the feet.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. It was even more than that. Yeah, no, no, of course. Yeah, I mean, of course, Soline was a really big part of of this sending push and like of this project, of the whole project as well, because she also did the four transatlantic crossings. She also spent like 20 months in total doing this project. She had a her own goals for sure, but she still was a really big support for the climb, and I think we both had like a really intense moment up there. Um, yeah, being a belayer and being someone like with supporting is also really not easy. Like you get really stressed as well. She was like, yeah, I mean, she spent her whole days up there. It was really cold, not doing anything, just on a really small portaledge, hanging and trying to stay positive where I wasn't always. Like, when you keep failing the whole day on the pitch and you're like, oh, maybe this is it. I also struggle with some back pain and and at some point I wasn't positive anymore. And she stayed really positive. And she always, I don't know, she's a really strong person in a way that it feels like nothing is gonna touch her. Like she on this climb, she was so positive the whole time. She was smiling, making jokes, where I was obviously really stressed out. And I think she was for sure the key of my climbing success there. And yeah, like at some point we found this strategy of like, so I couldn't feel my feet and my toes when I was climbing because it was too cold and my shoes were too tight. And so the strategy we found out after the second day, I think, was me putting my toes and my feet against, like, under her lyres against her belly. And like, that was the way, like, that was the way I could have my feet warm enough to give a go. So between my go, I had my toes like in there for an hour almost. And I don't know if you already put someone's feet like against your skin when they're frozen, but that's a big commitment.
Yeah. No, you and Celine have raised the bar for support. Like, unless you have snuggled
Yeah,
somebody else's toes against your belly in a freezing snowstorm, like,
yeah, it
yeah, your
was it
support.
was pretty. Yeah, that that
Actually,
that's the final step of support, I would say. Under that, under that, I wouldn't call it support. Maybe.
this partnership angle is so fascinating. I am curious, like, any type of strategies that you and Celine have developed to be there for each other, to support each other. What have you figured out works or doesn't work through these months and months of ocean crossing, through days spent on a wall, and through all kinds of other struggles? Like, I'm sure there are people listening who are struggling through, more mundane relationship issues. So is there something we
Yeah.
can learn from you?
I don't know. Yeah, no, of course it's something. I think we have. Yeah. Well, what's the secret? I don't know. I'm not sure. I
I
think we
mean,
communicate.
I know it is beyond just bringing your favorite snacks to the
Yeah.
crack.
Yeah.
It's more than that.
Yeah, of course. I think we have like we have a really good friendship, and we thought like, like aside like being a couple, like in a romantic couple, I think we have a really good friendship as well. Like we are really good friends. We like to have fun, and we communicate a lot, and that's something we're still learning. And also, I think we've learned to give space to the other and still being supportive, which is something which is not always easy in a relationship, like in a romantic relationship, to like, to give space to someone and still being there in support. I think that's the whole key of like somehow like a successful relationship. I don't know. I'm not
Okay.
Dr. Love, but I would say, yeah, like communication is for sure one of the big key. Yeah.
Okay.
And also being
Yeah.
psyched, and she was super psyched and super like, she's a passionate climber, and that's something we are lucky to have found someone who has like the same passion in life and same kind of interest and like way of thinking. So I think she also had fun up there, like seeing me climb, and when I'm with her up there, and when I'm supporting her, I'm like always, I have as much tension in me than I have when I'm climbing myself, or at least it feels like as good as when I'm climbing myself. Like
Yes.
you can like really live some really strong. You can have some really strong feelings by just being there, supporting, and that's also something I think important. If she wasn't, or if I wasn't happy to be up there and supporting, I don't think it would work. I think that's something you need to find the like intra motivation of being there.
Seb, you said a few things. All of them are actually, I think, all of them are actually so valid. You talked about shared interests. You talked about communication. You talked about being a friend. But then the last
Yeah,
one, I think, is so important. You talked about being just as psyched for
yeah,
your partner's goals as they
yeah,
are
yeah,
for their own goal. And I'm sensing Celine had some of that psych for your success. I'm sure she was thinking in her mind that, we'll have to come back by boat again. She doesn't do it. But beyond that, she was just so bought in at a personal level, at the shared. And sorry, I know this is not a therapy podcast, but I mean, this is the magic right there, which is you have to just be you have to support, not just for them, but for yourself, because you get those energetic sensations when you see your partner succeed. You also have this, this strong sense of value, Seb, and the lifestyle you've adopted. I wonder if there are any creative tensions around being able to also have it, because you can't have everything single thing like aligned in a relationship. So are there like some ways you have built compassion for each other, where maybe there are things that you don't align on, but you just support each other?
Mm, yeah. Of course, I think having compassion for like what you don't align with in a couple or in a relationship is key for sure. We do have like we are aligned on a lot of things. That's big luck we have as well. Um, so I don't know. I don't know
Yeah, yeah.
There is something special there.
You know, just some final questions, Seb, before we end.
Yeah.
What's one small habit or maybe a daily practice that's improved your life lately?
Mm, let me think. I think I went back to reading. When I mean going back to reading is I used to read a lot, and then I had a smartphone and I stopped reading. And nowadays I really try to get back at it. Like, and I think that's also something getting back to the sailing, what is like, like getting back to the sailing. I think it also brought me back to this, like just taking time away from the social media or the smartphone, which is made to get you addicted to it. So I had a smartphone pretty late in my life. I think it was my first smartphone was in 2019 or 20 or something. But
Oh, wow.
I got, yeah, so I was pretty proud about it, and I think I was always like, oh, I want to like live my life without it because I can see that you guys spend so much time on it, and I was proud about this decision. And then I got one because I had to for work, like for the work I was doing at the time, and then I got addicted, and now I can't get away from it. So I think that's something in my life. It's really not linked to the climbing, but that's something I want to do more as well, and that make me happy. Is just like, for example, this afternoon I just went, as I said, running in the mountains, and I just left my phone down there. I didn't bring it with me, and because I feel like even when you go climbing or when you go running or when you go mountaineering, we still have this thing that in our pocket, and we still want and maybe it's a good thing to have, huh? We use it for picture, we use it for music, we use it for like whatever. And I'm not criticizing this, but it feels so good just to not have it, and like not having the possibility to take a picture and just look with your own eyes, and that's a good thing. I think. Yeah,
Did you have
it feels
internet while you were on the boat?
no, no, and
Ah,
that was so good. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure it must have been.
There are many boats who have like which have Starlink and like an Iridium or something. We had some way of communicating with Iridium, which is like you can have like a few messages, but yeah, we were not using it so much. Just for like downloading, like every 3 days you can download like a weather forecast, but that's it.
And maybe let your family know that you are surviving. You haven't gotten eaten by sharks.
Exactly. But on the other hand, it's also good to. I know my mother can be quite stressed out when I'm out there, and I try to get her used to me not giving any news. And and that's not bad. Like no news, good news. Like that's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to. But also she was really happy to have a few messages this time when we were on the ocean.
Yes. 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 That's great. Seb, you actually shared two different habits. They're linked. One is the first one, which is reading books more.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the
They
second
were
one, maybe,
they are linked, huh? They are linked to me.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
no, 100%. I use the Kindle, and
yeah, yeah,
I have the most basic. Okay, so the Kindle makes it easy to read books over physical books, but I got the most basic version of the Kindle
yeah,
because
yeah.
it does not browse the internet and you cannot do anything on it, which I think has been saving my reading habit. Except any surprising routines, um,
Um,
morning or evening routines, or like while you're traveling that kind of keep you grounded?
hmm. I don't have so much routine, I think, in my life. Like the way I live my life recently, like is not really easy to build routines. even though, yeah, I think what's like the biggest routine I have is like probably cooking and eating, like which I try like of course as everyone like to do at the same time of the day, like more or less every day. Uh, yeah, that's I think something quite important which regulates my day for sure in general. But
Sure.
any specific routine, I'm not sure. Like I'm stretching quite a lot. I like to do like some stretching session and yoga sessions at least once a day. But again, I don't always find the time for that. Like like take an hour to do that is fucking hard.
Yeah. Yes, yes, guys,
But
absolutely.
I'd like
But
to do.
I think that's also another thing that not having a phone with you helps because
Oh, of
it is
course,
just so
yeah,
easy
yeah,
to sit down with your phone and like kick in like an
no,
hour where if you don't
of
have that
course.
phone, then you're forced to be more creative with talking about food. You know, I'm curious. That's it. Okay. Here's a fun question. What is one meal that you could eat every day? And I'm guessing it is not oatmeal with water, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, no, you're right. You're right. What is it? I should maybe answer like Belgian fries because like that's the
Oh,
proud meal we have there, and we like to make joke about it, like that we eat fries every day, and that's what makes us strong. But it would be a lie. Then I would say, yeah, I don't know. Like I think I could eat pasta with like vegetables every day. Like I could
sure.
probably. Yeah, I'm vegetarian. Like I've been vegetarian for the past 13 years or something, quite a long time. And now I'm trying to be vegan or like eat less like milk related products and maybe a bit less eggs as well. But I still do. And but still, yeah, pasta with like a good vegetable sauce and some Parmesan cheese on it. I think could make my day every day for the rest of my life, maybe.
Sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That sounds delicious. And actually, I'm exactly in the same boat because I've been vegetarian for a long time, and there are some things which to give up. In my case, like giving up eggs seems a little bit challenging. When you were on this wall, or maybe even on the boat, or away from like creature comforts, how did you make sure you were getting the right nutrition to be able to perform at that high level?
Yeah, it's not always. I do eat a lot in general, so I think like compared to the average like population, I probably eat more. And yeah, I mean, I focus a lot on proteins, of course, like lentils, chickpeas. So yeah, like those kind of proteins. I do eat eggs as well, uh, and sometimes cheese. Yeah, I've no like in trips like that, like on the boat or on the wall. Like I'm not really calculating anything, or I just try to do my best with what I have, which is not always easy for sure. Yeah, I think somehow we manage, or at least yeah.
For sure. Did you take maybe some supplements with you on the wall to add to the maybe the freeze dried meals or the pasta or the
Yeah,
canned
on,
lentils?
yeah, on the wall, I definitely had some like powder proteins with me to add to meals. Because usually, like, I had a lot of dry meals, which are not always like first they are not big enough or not always protein enough. They like I had some really good ones, but not enough, of course.
Yeah,
And so yeah, to be honest, on that push, I brought so much food, like so much good food that I wanted to eat. Because one thing is when you get back of a really stressful day, like in the cold, it's not always easy to eat correctly and eat enough. So I really like tried to bring as much as I could, mm, as much thing that I like as I could. Yeah, many things to add to the meals.
Yeah. Yeah. And you probably learned over time as well, over
Of course,
successive
yeah,
time, successive trips to Yosemite, different big walls you've climbed, and
yeah, yeah.
then you were able to dial in your diet a bit better. Seb, here's a fun question. You lead an intentionally, can I say, minimalist lifestyle. You are not out there trying to, or at least you're trying to not
I'm trying. Yeah,
be a big capitalist, right? Like we spoke about
yeah,
earlier.
of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
But
that's a good goal.
yeah, having said that, what might have been the best use of, let's say, €100, or maybe since you were in the US, maybe $100 in recent memory,
What was the best use of $100? Hmm.
or
Uh,
a similar amount.
you mean that I made like an
No, like,
expense?
you spent maybe something around $100 and that gave you the most joy.
I mean, I would say still like when I pay a restaurant for many friends and like, or like let's go eat after a good climbing session all together and like $100. That's nice. It's a good way to use it, I think.
Was it maybe after you sent the Dawn Wall, did you go out and get a good meal?
Yeah. We had some good meals. Yeah, we also had like in the valley there is the Awani Hotel, and like they are doing the breakfasts, all
Yeah,
you
the
can
buffet.
all
Yeah,
the all you can eat buffet breakfast, and like we had that after the normal with few friends. That was perfect.
that,
And we also had
yeah,
like we booked a room. It's funny because my father is a big has been a climber all his life, and obviously was following my climbing a lot when I was on the downwall. And when I submitted, I wrote him a text, and he was really psyched. And then he wrote, "Go go take a room in a good hotel, or not a good, but in a hotel for the next 2 days, and I'm paying it." And
yeah,
like, and it was actually because I don't think we would have gone in a hotel if he didn't say that. We would have stayed in the resty van we had in the valley. But like, he was insisting so much that we went, and that was really good. We were three friends there, and it was super fun.
Seb, how long was the first shower after you got down from the wall?
So, so the funny thing is, so we went to this hotel, which is like it's the bug, like outside of the
Yeah,
valley there is a spa and they have rooms as well. So we went there and we entered the room, and I tried to take a shower. That was the first thing I wanted to do. And they were like the water wasn't getting hot. Like it was
oh,
staying cold the whole time. And I waited for like 10-15 minutes, and I was like, oh
no,
no,
gosh.
it won't happen. And like I went to the reception asking like what's happening, and actually they tried to fix it for the next 3 hours or something. So I didn't get my shower that day actually.
Oh,
I had to wait for I spent the night, and then in the morning I spent quite some time to get the shower.
oh, wow. Well, looks like you did not give in to the cold shower. You wanted it so bad. You
I
slept.
could Yeah, I mean I couldn't, like it was really cold, and I was really cold as well. So it was 1st of February in the valley, a storm coming in. You don't want to take a cold shower. But maybe
Yeah.
I still did something that night. Maybe at the end we went to the spa or something. I'm not sure. The
Yeah.
next day we went for sure, and that day I think I went to sleep because we didn't sleep at all the night before. So I think I just went to sleep, which was quite important as well.
Yes. 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 Just a final question here, which is, we will put links to your Instagram on the show notes. But is there any other platform or uh, maybe piece of media you want to share with the
Um,
listeners on where they can learn more about your voice and the work you
yeah,
do?
yeah. So the biggest communication I'm doing through my climbing and the media I'm doing is through writing and movies. Um, so I would say I'm like the writing is mostly in French. So I've been writing a few articles for different kind of French magazines. I think maybe like through the movies we did like on YouTube recently we did a nice film about my ascent of Bon Voyage in France, which is like a hard trad route in South France, which is quite a nice movie, like or at least a fun one. I think it could be nice checking it. And
I saw the
or
movie and I recommend it.
yeah, it's nice. We also like we are working on a film on this trip that we just did and on the Donwall. So I think that's gonna be a media that would be interesting to watch. And there is also the first film about this project, which was about the whole expedition we did 3 years ago. There is a film called Captains on El Cap that you can download on the internet. And yeah, I think that's the main media.
Amazing, Seb. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I feel
My
blessed
pleasure.
that I caught you at the right time when you actually completed your trip, had internet service, and made the time to talk to me today. Seb,
Yeah.
thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you as well. Like it was a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Ageless Athlete Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this show just as much as I enjoyed creating and producing it. Whether you are an athlete looking to push your limits or someone striving to maintain a healthy, active lifestyle as you age, there is always something new to learn. From Ageless Athlete, we bring you a fresh episode each and every week. If you liked what you heard, we would love it if you would take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an update. And if you really liked what you heard, please leave us a review, crush those 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. It helps us reach more people who are passionate about staying strong and resilient, no matter their age. Don't forget to visit our website and leave your email so I can send you occasional insights, stories, and tips to keep you inspired and motivated on your journey. You can also follow us on Instagram at Ageless Athlete Podcast and on YouTube at Ageless Athlete Podcast as well for even more great content. All of these links are available on the show notes for this episode. This show is entirely produced by me, Kush Khandelwal, based out of California with the help of my trusted adventure pup Roger. Until next time, keep challenging yourself, keep pushing those limits, stay mentally and physically fit, continue doing what you love to do, and my friends, stay ageless. Friends, this is not an ad. This is just a quick message to those amongst us who are listening to Ageless Athlete podcast for the first time. I would love it if you would hit subscribe and follow on your favorite podcast app, whether it's Apple Podcast or Spotify or Stitcher or Overcast or what have you. We bring you stories and routines and other inspiration from elites in the world of the best outdoor sports. In each episode, you will find how these athletes stay connected to the outdoors, maintain peak performance, and continue to thrive as they age. I encourage you to look through Brad episodes and listen to a couple and see if they resonate. And then, come back next week. We release an episode each week. And I am really inspired to bring you some of the best stories from the world of the outdoors. Okay, back to the show.